powerpluscontrolsystems@gmail.com. Power Plus Control System, powering you on.
Welcome to this news bulletin. My name is Shansim Lazabanda. Thanks for joining us. Here are the top stories. Center for Social Concern warns against exportation of maize on account of lack of control for the outflow. SCB says unwillingness by individuals to provide information hindering corruption investigations in district councils. TUM threatens to resume nationwide strike after receiving an objection from COVID-19 task force on risk allowance. And elsewhere, police arrest 4 people for allegedly mocking President Magufuli's loss of life. Now, the news in detail. We begin with news that High Court Judge Dorothy De Gabriel has convicted 2 men in Nkara Bay for the 2018 New Year's Eve murder of a man with albinism. The case attracted a lot of public interest. Yassini Kwendapiri, 57, was murdered as his child watched in his house, located at Kande Trading Center in Nkara Bay. Judge De Gabriel is yet to set the date for sentencing. The Center for Social Concern has warned against exportation of maize at this time, saying practicality of controlling outflow is unreliable. CFSC Executive Director has asked government to reinstate the export ban, but directing the Minister of Trade, Clement Kumbemba, maintains the arrangement to go ahead as there are legislations in place to guide the exportation. Joseph Mazis has filed this report.
Government's plan to export maize after 1.1 million tons surplus expected this year continue to attract mixed reactions from stakeholders discussing the Right to Food Bill facilitated by the Center for Social Concern. During a meeting in Salima on Wednesday, Executive Director for Center for Social Concern, Father Dr. James Ngai, warned if not carefully handled, the plan can land the country into shortage of food despite the bumper harvest.
It is a bit tricky, maize being a food crop, but at the same time being a cash crop. It's a bit tricky. How do you control that, this maize you are selling out, you are not selling the reserves? It's a bit tricky. We presume that we are going to have a bumper harvest this year. But at a point, maybe we may sell even what we were supposed to have kept behind.
An advocacy member for Zomba Rulo, Kwanish Nyilenda, said the export plan is not timely as most ADMAC depots have no maize in stock.
That is not the right decision at the moment because we are still buying 10 kgs per household at the ADMAC. Even the price of the maize is still high.
But agriculture expert Taman Konomvula shares a different view. He believes exporting maize will help boost the country's economy, which is sailing in troubled waters. Government, through the director in the Ministry of Trade, Clement Kumbemba, maintains control measures are already in place to ensure the country does not land in hunger after the exportation. Reporting for Zodiak from Salima, I am Joseph Mazizi.
The Anti-Corruption Bureau is worried that unwillingness by individuals to provide information continues to hinder corruption investigations in district councils. SCB Principal Public Education Officer Catherine Nkoma says its investigators are struggling to get information in district councils due to poor reporting. Meanwhile, some officials from Nchisi District Council have been oriented in reporting of corrupt practices. A reduction in the number of magistrates has been singled out as a major obstacle in the delivery of justice among people in remote areas. Members of Parliament Wednesday afternoon raised concerns that construction of courthouses are stalled while some courts do not have magistrates. Chimwe Padato was at Parliament for us.
Thursday afternoon in Parliament, some lawmakers took to task government on continued shortage of magistrates in the country's courts, lamenting it denies citizens their right to justice. Member of Parliament for Cholo South cited Mpande Magistrate Court in his area where people are sent back due to unavailability of a magistrate. On her part, Laimond Bemazimpondo, Member of Parliament for Nchewu North mentioned Kawere Court where a similar challenge is experienced. Minister of Justice Titus Mvalo has since admitted that about 80 courts across the country need urgent attention. Mvalo, however, said government has already a plan in place to recruit more magistrates as more courts have been constructed. He disclosed these will be recruited from a cohort of law students nearing an end to their studies at Chancellor College. For Zodiak in Nilongwe, this is Chimwemwe Padata.
Implementation of the Zikomo Presidential Awards for health workers in the country has delayed, and the Malawi Health Equity Network has maintained its stand not to implement the awards. Mehin Executive Director Joy Jobe says implementation would demotivate some health workers more, especially during this time of the pandemic, where almost all health workers are dedicated to fighting the pandemic. President Lazarus Chakwera announced his government through the Zikomo Awards will be awarding health workers that have performed exceptionally well as a motivation for the cadres to work hard. Toera Kumwenda has more.
On 1st of August last year, President Lazarus Chakwera announced his government will be presenting Zikomo Presidential Awards as a way of recognizing the role healthcare workers are doing in this country amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. In December, State House Press Secretary Brian Banda acknowledged that there were delays in awarding the workers, but was quick to say this was because the Ministry of Health was working on the technicality part of the awards. The ministry's spokesperson Joshua Malango also then acknowledged this, saying arrangements were at an advanced stage and would be finalized by January this year. Now, both the State House and Ministry of Health remain mum on the future of the awards, as both Press Secretary Brian Banda and Ministry of Health spokesperson Joshua Malango could not be drawn to comment on the progress this far. Meanwhile, Malawi Health Equity Network Executive Director George Jobe said the delays should be taken as a sign and that the awards should not be implemented as they could discourage other health workers that might not be awarded. Meanwhile, as the country continues to fight the COVID-19 pandemic, health workers remain frontliners in both provision of care to those that have been affected and infected by the disease, and also in administering vaccines that are currently being provided to contain the impact of the pandemic. For Zodiak in Mzuzu, I'm Toera Kumwenda.
The Civil Society Network in Mulanje has expressed worry with the low funding towards sexual and reproductive health. According to the health sector's district implementation plan, the first 6 months of this financial year, sexual reproductive health activities were allocated 100,000 kwacha. Hastings Jiman reports from Mulanje.
District councils continue to allocate less funds on sexual and reproductive health activities, and development authorities are worried off with increased cases of teenage pregnancies. Mulanje district is one such where for the first 6 months of the 2020-2021 financial year, only 100,000 kwacha was allocated for sexual and reproductive health by district implementation plan. During an interface meeting between civil society organizations network in Mulanje and officials from the district health office, CSO's chairperson Saidi Jiwapolo doubted if SRH issues are at all priorities in the district, which is registering high rate of early pregnancies.
As a people, we don't hold our government to account. Therefore, they should be in the lead in promoting universal health coverage.
Health Services Administrator at Mulanje District Council, Felix Monia, confirmed of the low funding on SRH activities, but disclosed that the health office relies on support from partners that are implementing SRH projects in the district.
We do hope when we are creating SRH activities, we depend upon our partners who are in the districts, are the ones that supplement with the funding, and they also assist us in various activities in the district.
The Thursday morning interface meeting followed a budget analysis tracking the CSO network undertook in partnership with Malawi Health Equity Network and East Christian Aid funded social accountability on SRH and COVID-19. Davis Mwechum is Mehin Program Manager.
When we analyzed the Mulanje Health Sector budget, we noted that the sexual reproductive health was only allocated 100,000 for a period of 6 months. But from our view of documents and also what is expected to happen at the district level in terms of sexual reproductive health, that amount is very small.
Authorities have since pledged to tirelessly work towards pushing for adequate funding. For Zodiak in Mulanche, this is Hastings Jimani reporting.
The Teachers Union of Malawi, TUM, has threatened to resume a nationwide sit-in within 7 days after government refused to provide monetary value for the personal protective equipment in the wake of COVID-19. TUM President William Malimba says a presidential task force on COVID-19 has communicated to them that it will not be supporting the proposal. In effect, government maintains it will provide PPEs. Vanani Nyirenda has filed this report.
According to a statement from Teachers Union of Malawi signed by its president William Malimba, the teachers' body has given government a 7 days notice on their intention to resume their industrial action in form of a stay away from work which they had suspended on 8 March. This follows a communication from the Parliamentary Committee on Education to TUM, which says that the Presidential COVID-19 Task Force has refused to approve the 3 months once-off monetary packages to the teachers as they had agreed earlier on. William Malimba is the TUM president.
So we are saying, because of this one, I think the government is not being so serious. We are saying we are giving the government 7 days to comply to what they promised to teachers. Telling which teachers will go back on strike and they will resume. They will not resume unless they have been given their cash. So it's when they are going to resume work.
There has not been an immediate response from government or the Ministry of Education in particular, but according to a letter the Parliamentary Committee on Education has written to TUM, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has refused to approve the 3 months once-off monetary package to teachers as they had agreed earlier on because of some other issues. Among others, the task force says because funding and procurement of various equipment and materials for addressing COVID-19 response, including PPEs, for all beneficiaries, is done through councils and clusters, while following standard procurement procedures, it cannot support the 3 months once-off payments. For Zodiac, I am Vanani Nyirenda.
You're watching the news here on Zodiac. We'll be back with more news after this.
Kodi mukudziwa kuti ife alilongo water board tili ndi call center yomwe inakhazikitsidwa kuti itumikire inu makasitomala athu? Ngati mwapezana ndi vuto lililonse lokhuzana ndi madzi, musachedwe, tiyimbireni pa 253 mwaulere. Kusiya kwa madzi, madandaulo okhudzana ndi mabilu, kulipira mabilu, kuphulika kwa mapayipi, kulumikiza madzi mwachinyengo, kaya kutsina khutu, musachedwe, tiyimbireni pa 253 mwaulere ndipo tidzakuthandizani mwachangu ndi mwansangala.
If there's one thing that all soaps do, it's wash. From buckets to basins, bathrooms to streams, and everything in between.
All soaps wash.
Yes, but Protex is different. Its reinvented formula with flaxseed oil boosts your skin's natural anti-germ defenses by 10 times more, protecting you against 99.9% of germs. So what keeps us healthy?
Protex!
Good health starts here.
Welcome back. Here are the top stories again. TUM threatens to resume nationwide strike after receiving an objection from COVID-19 task force on risk allowance. Legislator Chilenga calls on probe into Kenyan company which allegedly disappeared before renovating here. And ACB says unwillingness by individuals to provide information hindering corruption investigation in district councils. And elsewhere, police arrest 4 people for allegedly mocking President Magufuli's loss of life. Well, moving on with the news, ballot papers for the forthcoming by-elections are expected to arrive in the country Friday from Dubai. MEC Director of Media and Public Relations Sangwani Mufirwa says the ballots will be dispatched to constituencies and wards the same day. Arrival of the ballots has been cancelled twice due to unavailability of flights, according to MEC. We have a report.
The March 30 by-elections will be held amidst the COVID-19 pandemic and in an effort to contain further spread of the viral disease. The Malawi Electoral Commission is expected to provide face masks to registered voters, polling staff and party representatives, among others. According to a statement signed by MEC Chief Elections Officer Samuel Fandika, the 320,000 face masks have been made available with support from the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 through the Department of Disaster and Management Affairs. The Commission has since called on candidates and political parties that want to give personal protective equipment to their representatives to ensure that they are not branded with party color symbols. Mr. Joy Jobe is a renowned health analyst and shares his views on the development.
We have been working together with the Malawi Electoral Commission, especially on the sensitization of people, going further to supply masks to people the polling day. This is very commendable.
Reporting for ZBS News, this is Adams Clement Undaning.
A study by SOS Children's Village Malawi has punched holes into the country's social protection programs like social cash transfer, saying only 10% of targeted poor households are benefiting. The organization's national director, Smart Namagonya, who commissioned the survey yesterday, recommends increasing the number of beneficiaries and financial investments. Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Gender and Social Services, Isaac Karobola, says government will use the report in its programming of social protection services for effective implementation. Steve Zimba reports.
SOS Children's Village Malawi conducted the study in 4 districts of Mzimba, Chikwawa, Blantyre and Lilongwe, targeting 4 of 8 main countries' social protection programs. These include social cash transfer, school feeding, public works and affordable input program that replaced farm input subsidy program FISP. The study has, among other things, found that these programs have gaps, especially during recruitment process of beneficiaries and also monitoring. As a result, the level of poverty in the country is not improving, according to SOS. SOS Children's Village Malawi National Director Smart Namagonya says now the ball is in government court.
Now it will be up to the government to take up the recommendations that are in the report. Because basically what comes out of the report are gaps and some recommendations. So recommendations will always influence policy direction.
A report of the study has been handed over to the Ministry of Gender and Social Services, main implementer of social protection programs in the country. Principal Secretary in the ministry, Isaac Katopola, has welcomed the results of the study.
We are going to use the results of this assessment report in our programming. Some of them are policy in nature, so we'll take it through the process of trying to review the policy. For example, the policy of targeting, which takes every 4 years. There are stages that are taken, so we'll use that in the stages that we take to review the policy.
Government is currently giving out 90.7 billion kwacha to vulnerable urban households as a way of cushioning them from the negative effects of COVID-19. For Zodiak, this is Steve Zimba reporting.
Police in Tanzania are cracking down on residents deemed to have ridiculed the loss of life of former president. 4 individuals have been detained for allegedly mocking the loss of life of John Magufuli, who is to be buried on Friday in his hometown of Chato. Ulrich Matei, the regional police head within the southwest area of Mbeya, informed native journalists that the 4 had been ridiculing Magufuli's loss of life, whereas the nation was mourning. John Magufuli died on March 17, 2021 from coronary heart assault based on the federal government. Tanzania's authorities introduced in honor of the president, who was nicknamed Bulldozer. That's it for now. Let's take another look at the headlines before we leave. Center for Social Concern warns against exportation of maize on account of lack of control for the outflow. SCB says unwillingness by individuals to provide information hindering corruption investigations in district councils. TUM threatens to resume nationwide strike after receiving an objection from COVID-19 task force on risk allowance. And elsewhere, police arrest 4 people for allegedly mocking President Magufuli's loss of life. Visit our website zodiacmalawi.com for more news, and if you are in the target groups for the first phase of COVID-19 vaccine, please go for a jab without fear. It could save your life and that of others. My name is Chansim Rozabanda. Thanks for watching.
Let's take a moment to talk about money. Life can get a little pricey out there. The passing pleasure of a restaurant meal. A fleeting fast food feast. Or those sports magazines you never really finish. But what if you got to watch the big game rather than read about it? And what if that lasted a lot longer? Well, with GoTV it can. Because with a whole range of different package options to choose from, you can get a whole month's worth of moments for both you and your family at a price you can afford.
You got it. RCQ?
That's right. Only one. In exchange for hours of sport, lifestyle, international, local, and kids entertainment.
This is gonna be great.
GoTV. Live it, love it.
Aunduna wa zaumoyo mogulizana ndi bungwe la ICAP komanso Centers for Disease Control and Prevention CDC ndi chithandizo chochokera ku PEPFAR akulengeza zakuyambiranso kwa kafukufuku wa MFIA 2020. Kafukufukuyu yemwe anayamba mu January 2020 anayimitsidwa kaye kamba ka muliro wa COVID-19. Choncho kafukufukuyu akuyembekezeka kuyambiranso mu January 2021 madera maboma omwe sanamalizike ndi ena omwe sanafikiridwe. Maboma awa ndi awa: Kumpoto, Chitipa ndi Nkhata Bay. Mchigawo chapakati Mchinji, Dedza, Nchewu ndi Salima. Ndipo ku chigawo chakumwera akachitikira ku Balaka, Mangochi, Mashinga, Zomba, Chiradzulo, Blantyre, Tcholo, Mulanje, Chikwawa, Nsanje ndi Neno. Unduna wa zaumoyo